Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Donation with Gift of Hope. I'm your host, Olivia Fox, and this is an interactive show where you, the viewers, can call in and ask any questions that you might have about organ and tissue donation in our community. We are streaming live each week at cantv.org/hotline, so if you're not in the city of Chicago, I hope you're tuning in there. And please call in and join our conversation by dialing 312-738-1060. Again, that's 312-738-1060. And make sure to get those calls in before 6:55 so we can make sure to answer them live tonight. So I know a lot of you all have been hearing the commercials and we're like, talk donation. What type of donation? What's this all about? Donation to charity, education? What is it? In actuality, it's a little bit of both. It's charity to your fellow man and child, as well as education about organ and tissue donation in our community, and especially what minorities need to know about participating in this process. Ultimately, our sole goal is to give you enough information to dispel the long-standing myths and misconceptions while helping our viewers to understand that Gift of Hope is a very honorable and trusted partner in the community. And we recognize that minorities have very valid fears of healthcare entities, and let's face it, some of them were well-founded. However, within the last 30 years, with advances in modern medicine, amazing transplant physicians, our hospitals and community partners, Gift of Hope has helped turn tragedy to triumph through organ and tissue donation while supporting donor families, recipients, and those still waiting for a life-saving and life-enhancing organ donation. So welcome to the show. I'm really excited about tonight's show, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get back from our regularly scheduled commercial break.
Nikki's donations made a huge impact on a lot of people. This one right here, sitting next to me especially. When Gift of Hope came to me and asked me for the donation, it made me feel very confident knowing that I can give my baby's heart. This is Nikki's heart beating inside Tanisha's chest.
So when I heard this pounding, like, what is that noise? And the nurse said to me, that's your heart.
I carried Nikki for 9 months. Now Tanisha's gonna carry her the rest of her life.
Say yes to donation. Start the conversation with your loved ones today.
Welcome back. I am joined by my co-host for this evening, and if you are a regular viewer, you might recognize her. I'm joined by Miss Monica Fox. Welcome.
Hi.
She's also my mom, if you guys don't know. My mom, Monica, she is very well connected throughout the donation and transplantation community. She is employed by the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois. She is very active with Gift of Hope in several different capacities as an ambassador and as a recipient, and she is also a part of the South Suburban chapter of the Links Incorporated, where she also does a lot of service work and a lot more work for Gift of Hope and educating the community about the importance of organ and tissue donation. And finally, she is a 2-year kidney transplant recipient, and we are so excited that we just celebrated that anniversary last week during the week of Thanksgiving, and we are so grateful to her donor Milton and to his family for the selfless gift that they gave that has given our family more time with my mom and more time for her to outreach and kind of make a difference in the community. So we're so grateful for Milton, and we think of him and honor him every day. So welcome, Mom.
Thanks, Libby.
Hey.
Olivia.
Hey. So tonight I'm excited because we have a fun show. We're doing something a little bit different. We're switching the format up. And what we're doing is we're having a Hot Topics Fishbowl conversation show. And that's going to be fun because we have gathered questions that we've heard throughout the community, and we have put them in this fishbowl, and we will be picking questions out of here and answering them throughout the show. And this is also why we really want you guys to call in with your questions tonight so we can answer them live. I know that we had a lot of our community partners posting, so if you saw this post from the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois social media, or if you saw it from Gift of Hope social media, call in, share your testimony, ask your questions. We're here until 6:55. So along with the fishbowl questions, we're so excited to hear from you all, the viewers. So let's take a quick look at this How Donation Works video, which I have showed on the show before, but I thought that this might get everyone thinking a little bit about some questions that they might have about organ and tissue donation. We consider ourselves subject matter experts, but we want everybody to know everything that they can about organ and tissue donation. So while you're watching this video, think of any questions that you might have and call in and join our conversation as soon as we get back. The number's at the bottom of the screen.
Every year, many thousands of people receive the gift of life, a life-saving transplant of a heart, kidney, liver, lungs, pancreas, or intestines. And thousands more people receive corneas and other tissues that restore sight and health. Transplantation is one of the great medical advances of our time. How does it work? It all starts when someone's organ begins to fail, and that person will need a transplant to survive. A thorough evaluation is conducted at a transplant center, and if the person's a good candidate for a transplant, he or she will be put on the National Transplant Waiting List. Once a person is on the list, the wait for an organ begins. A national system matches people on the waiting list with donors. The factors considered in matching donors and recipients include blood type and body size, how sick the patient is, distance from the donor, tissue type, and length of time on the waiting list. What doesn't get taken into account? Organs are never matched based on race or gender. Income, celebrity, and social status are also never considered in matching donor organs to waiting patients. There's no telling how long the wait will take. In fact, some people don't receive an organ in time because the waiting list is very long and there aren't enough donors available. That's why an average of 18 people on the waiting list die each day. Imagine how many we could save if we all were donors. Most organs for transplants come from deceased donors. Here's how that happens. A person comes to the hospital with a life-threatening brain injury, such as from an accident, a stroke, or lack of oxygen. The doctors work hard to save the patient's life, but sometimes nothing can be done. There's a complete, irreversible loss of brain function. The patient is clinically and legally dead. That's when being a donor can turn a time of loss into a time of hope. Because machines have kept blood containing oxygen flowing to the organs, they can be passed along. One person can give life to as many as 8 people through organ donation, and enhance the lives of 50 people or more through eye and tissue donation. But now, minutes matter. Matches must be found, and transplants must happen quickly. The hospital contacts an organ procurement organization, an OPO. OPOs manage the organ recovery process. The OPO checks the state organ donor registry. If the person is already registered as a donor, they'll inform the family. If not, they'll ask the family to authorize donation. A medical examination takes place. They check the medical and social history, and if the person is eligible to be an organ donor, the computer begins the search on the national waiting list for well-matched patients. The best matched patients for each organ are contacted by their transplant teams. This is the call that every single person on the waiting list has been hoping for. The call that could mean a second chance at life. Now the transplant happens. A surgical team recovers the organs, then corneas and other tissues. The organs are sent to the transplant hospitals where the patients and transplant teams are waiting, and the life-saving transplants take place. It will take healthy living and medications to keep the organ working well in its new home. But some wonderful person has given the most precious gift of all, the gift of life. You too can make the decision today to sign up on your state registry as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Any age is the right age, young or old. And any day is the right day to sign up as a donor. You can register through your driver's license office, or you can sign up right now, online. Remember to tell your family so they can support your wishes. More than 100 million people have already signed up, but we're all needed to save more lives. Go to organdonor.gov and sign up in your state donor registry as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov and share the gift of life.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Donation. I hope that video was very informative if you have not seen that before. And I hope that helped everybody really understand the process of how donation works. Because we know that when we understand the process, it makes it a lot more easy for us to decide to participate and for us to feel comfortable with knowing what happens when this process takes place. So we are so excited to get into our fishbowl questions. But before we do that, I just want to show you guys our contact information. If you guys would like to reach out to us, it's a little bit small there. Let's see if we can zoom it in a little bit. If you would like to reach out to us, you can reach out to me at ofox@giftofhope.org, or else you can reach out to my mom, Monica Fox, at mfox@nkfi.org. If you have any questions about anything we discussed tonight, if you're interested in participating with either of our organizations in any way, or if you just have questions about, again, participating in this process, please feel free to reach out to us, and also check out our websites. Both of our websites have really great resources, statistics, information, and data about kidney disease and also about organ and tissue donation in our community. So let's hop right into our fishbowl questions. You want me to pick first, or you want to pick first?
I'll pick first.
Okay. Who's it gonna be? What's it gonna be?
Okay. The first question is, I want to be a donor, but don't want my parts to go to someone random on the list. How can I still participate?
That's an interesting question, and maybe we can answer that one together. That is actually a common question that we encounter in the community because of some of those myths and misconceptions that we talked about in the intro that many minority communities have about participating in this process. So one thing that we tell people, if that is a concern that they do have, which that shouldn't be a concern because the list is managed by UNOS and they have a very strict way of how they view their list and how the list is organized to make sure that it's a very fair process. Now, if again you do have this concern about where your parts are going, what you do, the most important part about this is to register your wishes. Step one. Step two, have the conversation with your family and loved ones. Because the best thing you can do is register your wishes so that your family and loved ones know that this was indeed your wish. But then also you can have the conversation with them so that they know if, God forbid, something happened to you and you do have the opportunity to become an organ donor and to save a life, they can take the time to reach out to your own community or their community and network and see if there is anybody in need that is around you. For example, in your family, in your church. If you are in a minority community, it is very likely that someone around you is in need, and that is where it comes into play. We call it directed donation. And do you want to talk a little bit about directed donation and kind of where that fit in with your story and what our community should know about that?
Yes. So that is my story, that I received a directed deceased donation. My donor's family was informed by their OPO that if they knew someone who needed a transplant, a kidney or a liver, that they could identify that person and the OPO would help to try to make that happen. It was important that the person had to be a match. So they reached out to me, and they actually reached me because of a Facebook friend, a friend who knew my story because of Facebook, I should say. I had shared my story a lot on Facebook. And they were able to donate to me because he happened to be a match. So it really was a blessing and a miracle. But it was the fact that they knew his wishes and that they were willing in the most difficult days of their life to stop and take that time to make some phone calls and see if someone around them, anyone who knew someone that was in need, they stopped and took that time and did that and saved my life, and I'm forever grateful to them.
And so that family, they took the time not only to, make this known to the OPO, but to have this conversation with their family. Because when you register yourself to be a donor, that is a legally binding notice that you make. That is a legally binding thing that if and when something happens to you and you have the opportunity to be a donor, you will be a donor. But what this family did was they stopped and talked about it in that moment and figured out what was the best option for them, what would feel the best for them, what would make his legacy, make them feel the most comfortable with his legacy. So I think that that's really important, that not only did he make his wish known, but the family was able to communicate with each other and say, hey, how do we carry out his wish in a way that is comfortable for us? So that's really, strong to be able to do in that time.
Yes. And actually today I had a Facebook memory, which was a post from his daughter where she shared how much it meant for her to be able to see that I was doing well and that I was happy and grateful to have received his kidney, and that I was going to be doing good things to carry out his legacy. And even though it was the most difficult time for her, and she actually stated, when I feel like crying and the pain is just more than I can bear, I find peace and joy in knowing that he saved your life.
Absolutely.
So that's a blessing in this process.
It is.
When it happens like that.
And all of that is about education and awareness, because that family was aware that they could do that, and they were able to carry the process out in that way. And one thing I do want to say before we wrap up this question is that, being a donor is the last and final legacy you can leave on this earth. It's a way to outlive your life here on this earth. And so I understand if people want to be picky about who it goes to, but really just understand that this is a gift that you will leave to someone. And, while your family might be getting the worst news of their life, another family will be getting some of the best news of their life. And it doesn't matter what skin color the people are, what their background is. It's about being a good human being and being able to leave this type of gift here on this earth. So that was a good question. We spent a long time on that, but we got a lot more in here. So let's see how many we can get to. My turn to pick, right? Okay. Okay, this one seems like it'll be kind of quick to answer. I'm sick now. I have an unhealthy lifestyle. Should I still sign up to be a donor? The answer to that is absolutely yes. Anybody, if you have the decision-making power, if you have the ability to think about it and make this decision, and you are of the age of 16, please make your wish known. It doesn't matter your health state now. It doesn't matter your health conditions or anything like that now. If it's your wish to leave a legacy, register to be a donor, and if and when that time comes, the doctors will make any of those notices, and they will use whatever is viable to be used for donation and transplantation for life-saving and life-enhancing purposes. So if you are sickly, it doesn't matter. Please just register your wishes, and everything else will be dealt with at that time. Looks like we got a caller, so go ahead and put the caller through. Hey caller, what's your name and what's your question?
Good evening, ladies. This is Auntie Paula. How you doing?
Good evening, Auntie Paula. How are you?
I'm okay. Hello, lady sitting next to you.
Hi, how are you?
This evening. Yeah, you got a heck of a story. You got Jesus on your shoulders. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. You are so right.
Yes, ma'am, and I like that little video you showed. It was absolutely perfect. You don't even need no show. Just put that little video. That showed everything absolutely perfect.
Yes.
But anyhow, I would like to talk about that young lady, little Sophie, not so long ago, the little girl that got that heart.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That Drake came and visited her and this and that.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how long that little girl waited for that heart. And how long can you wait for a heart? How long could you put you on that list? What's the longest? I mean, there's people dying every single day.
Yes.
I got me on my back and my driver's license, God forbid. I'm 64 years old. I'm pretty healthy. I got a good heart. I got good lungs. I got a good everything. So I'm ready if they ever need my stuff. But for other people, if they want to donate now, their kidneys now, a family member, I'd do it in a red heartbeat. But that little girl, Sophie, looked like she's doing so good. Now, does she stay sick the rest of her life, or is that the end of that?
So that was a great comment and question that you made, Auntie Paula. Thank you so much for calling in, and thank you for watching.
Welcome.
So about Sophie, let's talk about the heart transplant waiting list. So depending on each organ, the list is based on something different. So For your heart, it is based on how sick you are. So Sophie was a very, very, very sick little girl at the time that Drake came to visit her and at the time that she received her heart transplant. So per organ, there are different scores that are counted based on your medical testing about where your placement is on the list. So in most cases, the most sick people on the list are at the top of the list and the least sick people are at the bottom of the list. Now that is a little bit of a different case for kidneys, which is actually what people are the most in need for. But the kidney transplant waiting list is based on how long you have been on the list. So for that, people wait 5 to 7 years. So in the case of Sophie, she might have only waited 1 to 2 years. I don't want to be quoted on that because I'm not sure about her specific story and how long she waited, but the heart list is based on how sick you are. So Sophie was very, very sick. Her scores were very high if she did when she did receive that heart transplant. It was kind of a final measure in regards to will she be sick the rest of her life. That's the amazing thing about transplantation. It really gives you a new chance at life, and while you might have to take medications, and you know it ranges depending on who you are and depending on what your medical situation is, but you might be on 5 medications for the rest of your life. Some people might be on more, some people might be on less. But at the end of the day, it is a much, much better situation than that person was in than when they were very ill. They would not have probably made it another couple of months. Sophie probably would not have made it very much longer if she would not have received that heart at that time. So it's important for us to understand that each organ list is based on a different thing. Liver and heart is based on how sick you are. So Sophie was very sick. Do you want to talk a little bit about, she had one more question about if you wanted to donate while you're living?
Yes, so living donation is definitely an option, and it's a wonderful blessing. It is much, it's actually a much better option for people because it can happen much quicker. It stops you from waiting 5 to 7 years. So that is absolutely a possibility and one of the best options, especially for kidney and liver patients. In terms of Sophie, she may have only waited some months. It's variable as to how long a person waits, and there is sort of an artificial heart that some people have to use until they receive their heart transplant. But we're just thrilled that Sophie got her gift and that she's doing well. And hopefully she'll come on the show one day. We might be able to get her on and really talk to her and see how she's doing.
Absolutely. And we know that telling stories in the community is what makes a difference. And it was great to see that coverage all over the news because raising awareness about organ and tissue donation comes from telling people stories that have been through this. So that's why we continue to tell your story every day. Yes. We continue to tell the story of donors that were heroes and that saved lives of people that are here still working for this mission and working for their purpose here on this earth. So thank you so much for that question. We only have a couple minutes left. Let's see if we can get to maybe one more fishbowl.
Let's see. If I registered at donatelife.net or registerme.org, is that the same as the Gift of Hope list?
Ah, great question. And we actually have been talking about that lately.
Yes.
And you were on a webinar today with UNOS. Do you want to tell us what you learned about how the lists kind of work and what is the best way to be registered?
So the best way to be registered, so registerme.org and donatelife.net, those are all managed by Donate Life America, and that is the national registry. So absolutely register there. But each state, especially the state of Illinois holds their own list of registered donors. So it's important to be registered in your own state. It's important to go, when you go and renew your driver's license, to say yes to donation. So if you do both, you're totally covered. That's important. Say yes to donation when you renew your driver's license, and also go online and register with registerme.org or donatelife.net.
And I think the important part of that is that when you're registered with the Secretary of State, that's what you're mentioning when you go get your driver's license, that is what we call the legally binding will that you make to be a donor.
Yes.
So if it is very, very important for you to be a donor, please register at the Secretary of State. You can go to their website or you can go to giftofhope.org, and that puts you on the Illinois Donor Registry. But it's very, very important to know that the list that you should join, while there aren't the lists work together. So we don't want people to think that there are separate lists of who is procuring organs, but there is the Illinois list, and that is the best one to be registered with if you do want to ensure that your wishes and your legacy is carried out in that way to be an organ and tissue donor. So it looks like we have to finish the show up. I want everybody else to register to be a donor. We're already registered to be donors. And we would love to see you guys back next week. In the next couple weeks, we have some really, really exciting content coming up. We have some, hopefully some information coming from the GH Fit Lab, which is a post-transplant rehabilitation program for people that have received transplants and are hoping to get back to that regular quality of life that they were looking for. So that is going to be some great information. So keep watching for the rest of the season, and we'll have some really awesome guests and really awesome information about organ and tissue donation in our community. Thank you, Mom, for being my co-host. You are always there when I need you, and you are a wealth of information.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and I'm sure the people will get to see you soon, if not this season, maybe next season. And maybe they should look out for a show by you. So look out for an NKFI show maybe sometime soon, and keep educating yourself about organ and tissue donation, about your health in general. So see you next week on Let's Talk Donation with Gift of Hope.